Sometimes you do good things, but bad things still happen. There are also people who do bad things, but end up getting good results. Life's experiences, the rough patches, the times when things just don't go smoothly, that is something you'll find in this big wide world. They say everything isn't just about luck, it is also connected to your surroundings, circumstances, and all sorts of conditions. Good luck or bad luck, it is all part of the whole karma thing. Meddling like that isn't always right everywhere, It is just not right, like that, because of meddling with karma. Based on karma, when you do something good but it doesn't turn out well and bad things happen instead, your faith in karma starts to fade. And when you do something bad but end up with good results, your faith in karma also fades. Karma is just one of the teachings the Buddha spoke about. It is true that life is something shape created by karma. According to the Buddha's teachings, the main reason we get a life is because of karma. But if you ask whether it is just one single karma, well, no, it is not. And then, along with karma, the defilements, well, they also lead and shape a whole life, If you were to look at a life shaped under the influence of defilements, a person, they do good things and they also do bad things. Like that. Whether it is good or bad depends on the situation. People act based on whatever state of mind they're in at the moment. Sometimes doing good things, sometimes doing bad things. When you do that kind of thing, in your heart, deep inside, the good things too, the things I've ended up gathering, well, they've turned out to be the not so good stuff too, all piled up together. If you were to create a life in that place, if by pure coincidence fate happens to let you do something good, then when you hit a streak of good luck, you end up creating something good. When you run into a bad turn of fate, you end up creating a bad chapter. In life, you never know which twist of fate you are going to run into. Like, for example, a wise man. If we're talking about the numbers, then it is those 4 balls they keep. You put them inside the drum, spin it around, and then when it is time to draw the lottery, you watch. The balls have all sorts of numbers written on them. When you spin it, you can't predict which ball will come out or what number it is going to be. They say it is like when a lucky job comes up, you grab the number that comes with it, then swap it for another one, and then another. And when those numbers end up matching, it is like hitting the lottery. It is the same with people. Just like there are all kinds of numbers, people do good things too, and they also do bad things when they act. If the day of reckoning ever comes, you can't decide ahead of time whether it'll be the good side's turn or the bad side's turn. An uncertain world. Life circumstances are, well, they're never really certain. It is not just uncertainty. Things can go wrong too. And yeah, I've had my share of running into those rough patches. So that is just how life is. Whether it is good or bad, that is just fate. He is all set to produce one of those things. When things are all set up like that, he is the one who gave the direction. Well, if you are asking who gave the direction, it was him. Ignorance and craving, these two are what set the path in motion. As for karma, it is like everyone coming together to help bring something into existence. Ignorance and one person. It is like one of those sensations you only get right before you die, so they wouldn't know the truth. Clothing that hides the truth. When you gave permission to make the call, that cover-up you gave, because I couldn't see the truth, I ended up believing it was real and got attached DNA. Because of ignorance, you didn't realize the truth, and because of craving, you got attached and entangled, thinking it was good, just as an example. A person you'll meet in 5 days. Right before the time comes, I am seeing volcanoes. The volcanoes in his mind. I think the golden mountain is glowing in the sunlight. In my mind, I found a golden mountain. Actually, it was a volcano I saw. When you say you found a huge mountain to share, well, human nature, when it is gold, of course people want it. That wanting feeling just kicked in. At that moment when they pushed me off from the dock, I ended up at the place I thought was Shui Tong's. But when I actually saw it, it turned out to be a huge blaze. It turned into a huge blaze and I ended up getting burned, After that, there was no turning back. It turned into a huge blaze. I thought it was a gold mountain. And then it was right at that moment when the craving hit that they fed me straight from the lake. So yeah, it has been a long time since I got caught in that hellfire. Yes, I am just going through the torment of hellfire right now. Just let it go, Ignorance is what covers up the truth, It is kind of like a torch and a golden elephant. Yeah, pretty much the same. It is like he took that fiery nature and softened it with a touch of gold, making it more balanced. That is the kind of car I want over there. Sending a life means sending it in exactly that way. The manipulations of ignorance, the entanglements of craving. On top of that, I sent out karma. That shouldn't be put in the dictionary and the people you teach in the healthy DP section. A life. And now about this matter, the department is following up on the avidya reports. One person originally kept their distance from the avidya PKs, but there are some avidya that aren't breaking. That one nano thing about health factors, my wife didn't stop me. Was saying that life transitions were explained clearly, just those 4 points. Otherwise, things would get tight. So that is why they said it that way. And the department made a call so the mistake wouldn't be noticed. Because they couldn't see the truth from one side, they ended up mistaking it for something real. And at that moment, they sent it over from the lake. So you've arrived, huh? Found yourself in a new life. Seems like a good one. Well, at least for now. When all these good things start overwhelming me, I still think this life, any life, really isn't all that good. What people see as good, I'd still call it what it is, seeing something bad as if it is good. As for the person who will return to the darkness, in the eyes of the 2 palace women in heaven, I saw it at the moment of death. At that moment when I saw it, for just 1 hour, my mind leaned toward that side. When I went along, they pushed me across the shores, and I ended up inside a grand celestial palace. This, I'd say, was the influence of the very best good karma, guiding me towards such a wonderful place. But even though it was sent toward the good, when you reach that so-called good place again, you just can't let go of the good things, can't bring yourself to leave. And then it is like you are sent off with the mindset of dead brain. Yeah, that is pretty much the idea. And well, the gods, they're definitely there. When I come across good things and opportunities, don't want to split up, but kind of want to walk away. Not wanting to part, but having to anyway. After that, hey, you even get to experience offering the so-called vapor and gautak, like in the 6th heavenly realm. Because when the happiness and comfort get too overwhelming, too heavy to bear, before I can fully enjoy that huge sense of happiness, I end up splitting it apart. And after that, it is called, being happy. So back then, when they sent that bad stuff over, I already knew it wasn't good, But MP just went ahead and said it. And I ended up being pushed into dealing with things I didn't even like. So these kinds of attitudes, mixing desire and temptation together, is like creating a whole new life. Well, that is kind of how it is at the very end of Yangon region. If you ask who that is about, well, it is not about anyone. No one did it. It is just me, myself. These feelings, just like my usual habits, these impressions, these emotional pulls are tied to my habits. It is related to curve training. Well, that is what ended up stressing me out. Frozen, you mean? The editor said they weren't really sure, couldn't quite pin it down. You mean like a photo shoot life? That kind of unresolved situation. That is why I ended up leaning toward the Vinipata. Sometimes the words used in literature feel kind of distant or unfamiliar. So like without even a single bit of my own wish in it. I am living a life I never wanted. If you end up in a situation you never wanted, and it turns out to be part of a bad circumstance you've uncovered, kind of like a piece of insight, then you might be able to avoid running into that same kind of bad situation again. When the vapor rises, there is no big danger anymore. When Larry the Venerable Monk wrote about the fault of living as a layperson in the Daipani, well, that is what was mentioned in the sermon. In life, you end up becoming what you want to be. For example, the king, King Kosala, the one you negotiated with, in Malay, she is a queen. LG has a bit of a polite streak. We work in the garden, planting flowers, planting and tending them, trying to make a living. She is the only woman born into her family. Her looks are kind of rough. Oh, but she has got real skills sharp, quick and capable. Just because she is skinny, you can't just say she is not good looking. Well, that is just how she makes a living. In her surroundings, she doesn't really grow any plants or anything like that. She works selling flowers. Her skills are quick and decisive. The great King Kosala, well, there was a time when war broke out with King Ajatasattu, and in the chaos of battle, he had to flee on horseback. At times like that, when he broke away from the army, just one man on his own, and ran for his life at that moment. Without expecting it, the flower garden, and they ended up there. They ended up inside the flower garden where the plants were grown. The Mandalay Guardian Pagoda realized it was the king, but they said if they find out how they came, they're going to take him to court. They grabbed the tall man from the front and dragged him away. So which day was that? They offered help. They said they provided drinking water, mats to sit on, did things to help people relax, and even covered the expenses. That is so quick and careful. He always did it cheerfully, happily, with real dedication, never out of fear or reluctance. And one day, the king liked that and summoned him to the palace. Out of the four, the poor one was just the daughter. As for Bay, he was also very close and patient. He even dared to point out the king's mistakes. He spoke up boldly. When someone had 6 different dreams, the great king won Na. The Brahmins, if the methods they talk about for breaking a curse are actually carried out, and it ends up putting your life in danger, of course you'd be scared. I am going to break the Kayak toss spell. Back then they believed in killing animals and offering them as sacrifices to break curses. That was just the kind of thinking people had in those days. That is when Mandalay stepped in and saved the day. Ask the Lord, why are you so close with him that you are giving offerings, but you can't reach the king? Go to the Buddha. When I ran into Pyong on that day, I started to ask him. When I explained to him point by point that these dreams weren't some kind of prophetic sign that would guarantee victory, but were simply a way of anticipating possible future situations, he gave up his grand plan of performing the big exorcism ritual. A whole bunch of animals were brought in, and he gave up the curse-breaking job, something they called the Scary Five. The slaughterhouse guys are still around even today, yeah. That they set up the animals and did a drunken worship, kind of like a test, working with those things. I want to do the work they call worship, like that. And then King Kosala, well, when he competed with the common people and then made a grand donation so that Uncle HTA could win, they offered good advice and clever ideas, just like asking the Buddha yesterday. You know, the grand anti-Ashwai donation. And then the people responded. So unmatched, you couldn't even compare. The king has it. The elephant stood tall and proud. Using items that could serve 4 people at the table. They went ahead and held a big charity event. The people ended up losing out, and you really have to wonder who was behind organizing all this in the first place. The queen was that kind of refined and polite. Before committing a mistake, he had already deceived the king. He couldn't take advantage of that. When he was feeling down and dying, that thing completely took over his mind. Those two words, you call that happiness. Because he ended up doing some work-related matter that made him feel ashamed of himself. When they were overwhelmed with regret and died with that feeling still in their heart. The heart. If you die without any joy in your heart, you end up falling into a vichy hell. But what he is doing, like this, he missed the chance to gain the benefits of rebirth. Though his momentum wasn't all that great, but back when he was doing good deeds, it was already quite a lot. So because he delayed after mercy was granted, that flood of sin dragged him down into a vichy hell. However, if you measure it in terms of human lifespan and population, it is only about a week. Well, it has already been a full week. When luck runs out, the job's already finished, that is all. The moment his time was up right then, the shores granted him permission. Got permission and then pulled it up. Yeah, he really did make it to the Tavatimsa heavenly realm. In that life, even though things were going smoothly and everything seemed perfectly in sync, there were still parts that didn't go so well. That is just how life is. Nobody has it going perfectly like that all the time. Even the Buddha himself had times when things weren't going well, times when he couldn't even get food to eat. There are times when you just have to make do with bad food. The public's respect and admiration, just like there are times when you get a warm welcome. And then there is the cursing, the insults coming from people. I've also had to deal with threats, that kind of thing too. Even with the Buddha himself, there were still moments of difficulty. The uncomfortable situations we face in life are just hardships that life itself creates. So the only way to get through them is with patience and forgiveness. Once upon a time, there was a saying from the Buddha that the monks remembered well, and it is really worth following. The saying goes, power, my mother still respects it, that old. Back in the ancient era, the son of Tudit said, Lohaibo, you know, I am going into the war on the front lines of the battlefield. Running away from the front line felt just like climbing onto a huge elephant. In the war, getting out from the front line feels just like being honored and sent home in peace. While reading in the forest conflict zone, the other side fired about 4 arrows from 4 different directions. The things that were fired from far away, a whole bunch of them landed on the elephant's body. Oh, hitting right on this poor, miserable body. Hanaka was saying the 5th of May suffered from the resistance and ended up with this kind of body, gathering all these precious little treasures. Those things. I keep on working patiently on the job that needs to be done. I am not backing down. Awareness, just for a moment. The nasty, insulting things people say, I'll endure it. I'll stand my ground. Because, if the stick isn't made of metal, then most people in this world don't have good morals. When you are surrounded by people with poor morals, there is really nothing you can do except be patient. And now, even the Blessed One. People in this world, if they feel like talking, they just go ahead and say it. It is straight from whatever's on their mind. Other than putting up with it, there is really nothing else you can do. Exactly, the TDK cassette tapes, yeah. I used to call them that. I am as patient as a big elephant. Say whatever you want. After they said that, I just went along with it and didn't get flustered. So calling that patience isn't something I ever really thought about. I don't dwell on it. I just focus on doing the work I am supposed to do. When people in the world point out your faults, your mindset kind of changes. When someone praises you, you feel one way. And when someone criticizes you, you feel another. The Buddha, however, never let praise or criticism get into his head. Never paid them any mind. You just keep on doing the work that is right and ought to be done. That is what patience really is. Be, well, it means to reject. being able to keep your original state of mind intact. It is called a kind of strength or ability. Patience is just another kind of inner strength. If you are talking about abilities or strength, that is one of them. Even if someone praises you, I don't get all fired up. Even if someone scolds you, you don't get scared and run off. Even if someone criticizes you, you don't feel miserable. Even if someone praises you, you don't get overly happy. You stay mentally steady and just keep doing the work you set out to do. Keeping your mood from changing, that is what is called patience. Oh, so it means you don't let your mood change. Comments that are exactly briefly insulting, I can handle those. Nothing at all is going on in my mind. I'll do what I am supposed to do. That is just how it is, like that. In life, I got through the rough patches by being patient and pushing on. People, well, that is just how people are. Life's dangers, well, that is just life. There are all kinds of situations. There are also lives that have had the good fortune of growing up in a nice environment. There are also lives in bad environments facing all sorts of things. Like, for example, monks. If I look at my own life, I was born in a small village in the forest. Yeah, I was born in a forest village. In that village in the forest, there was still a scripture about not wanting to be human. Then came World War II. Well, when the Second World War broke out, so once the World War broke out, did the whole governing system start falling apart? When things started falling apart, the bad folks went around setting forest fires and hunting wildcats for sport. People just want to cause trouble, like a whole bunch of wildcat type stuff. People hurting each other became more and more common, so how could you sleep well? Ever since I was little, I've had to sleep like that. Later on, it wasn't like I was sleeping at my own house. Sometimes I'd end up sleeping on the back of an ox or on top of a pile of harvested stalks. I had to sleep by the phone, climbing up the ladder, and hiding over there. But I wasn't alone. Being with my parents, it wasn't really a bad thing at all. There are times when you end up sleeping in places you'd never expect, quiet, hidden spots where people slip in and stay without making a sound. Next time, from the sky. Airplanes dropping bombs. From far away they fired those artillery shells and whatever else coming down with boom, boom, bang, bang. Some of those even set fires when we couldn't stay in the city, couldn't stay in the village anymore. We went out into the forest thinking we'd find a safe place. Since they weren't afraid of snakes in the forest, there were times when they even slept out there in the woods. You can't just brush those things off as if they don't matter in life. There are times when things go smoothly and times when they don't, in those rough periods. If you start criticizing or judging, no matter how much good karma you have, it won't bring you the results you want. Oh, so that is why they say in August during the festival, people pray for the Four Noble Truths to be fulfilled and for the Four Foundations of Mindfulness to be complete. But when you look at it critically, it is really about letting go of the 400 bad conditions tied to decay and misfortune. It is a tough, unfavorable time. Trying to grow and make progress, it is just not a good time. So even being a war refugee brings suffering too, huh? And on top of that, when you are already dealing with other natural disasters, if something like World War II breaks out during that kind of time, and you happen to be in one of the places caught in its firebombs dropping, you can't even stay in your own home. More bombs keep falling, people dying, people fleeing in droves. It is chaos everywhere. In times like that, when the era itself is being torn apart and people are criticizing and fighting over everything, even good karma can't save you. Even if someone has great merit, it won't help during a time of turmoil. In those periods, it is the unwholesome deeds that seem to take over, like wildfires raging through the forest, like predators striking. The bad deeds bring results, and all you see are misfortunes. In such dark times, some people are killed, and many lose their lives completely. They call those periods of time Kalawai. And then the next one is criticizing the law. Their appearance is disfigured, blind in one eye or with a broken leg. In life, if something about you isn't complete, then according to the law and tradition, even if he is the king's son, if he is blind in one eye, he can't be king anymore. So that is what it means, Even if people praise him all the time, no one's going to make him king anymore. That is the legal side of things. Even though he is a king's son, fate just won't make him king anymore. Just like now, I can't give you the job anymore. Physical appearance in legal criticism, damage or defects in a rental property. If that is the case. So when we talk about wrong views or misconceptions, it is like ending up in a world with bad intentions while a pagoda festival is going on. During the pagoda festival, a person is in a place far, far away from the pagoda. No matter how much wisdom you have, you just can't hear the sound of the Dhamma. A lot of people ended up being unable to make the trip. There are people who didn't get even a single rank or position. Even if you criticize promises and such, it is like ruining an animal's life. In life, they really don't understand anything at all. No body or senses to hear with. If something like that happens, then even with the Buddha's teachings being shared, it doesn't bring him any benefit at all. That kind of thing is what they call biased promises. Since it is a day that is part of the cosmic order, my dear, one situation that comes from being far away from long journeys is something that only happens when the opportunity is just right. Lives where you can't get true justice or gain real wisdom, those kinds of lives, you know. And then there is another one, a condition they call Pyayoga Weapon. It is about perseverance, yes, perseverance, but you are supposed to do it. And yet, you just don't. So then, what do? The parents can afford the supplies, and they've even arranged a good school. Contract document. If you make an effort but don't actually study, just lazing around like a big cat, then you won't get any opportunities and you won't be good at your studies either, you know. That is Pyayoga weapons. If you don't do the things you ought to be doing, my determination and perseverance, then if that determination starts to fade, your success and growth will fall apart too. I've been praying to be free from having to respect someone who criticizes, who nitpicks like that. You've got to do the work yourself. Right? These kinds of situations don't bring any merit, but can actually lead to the results of bad karma. So don't make promises that invite criticism or are poorly thought out. Avoid commitments you can't keep. Quoting a song that criticizes the law, not having to go through a period of physical flaws or defects. Those things, well, praying is still kind of natural, but practical criticism is about doing what you are supposed to do. Just do it. Whereas praying isn't really about something you must do. If you get a life, you've got to work hard for it, just like vapor exists. The weight is there too. Looking at it the other way around, the word weight pretty much just matches the word gravity. Period, discipline, the right time, the right moment, just like the promise, the party life, the leader. The law, the tone, the posture, the features, they're all quite beautiful. If the chanting, the way it is done, is beautiful, then he can do pretty well. With the right effort and determination, you can truly make it work and do well. So if a daughter happens to have the four noble qualities, it brings merit and good results. A person who is fully endowed with the four kinds of concentration, if they're unwholesome, they can actually block unwholesome deeds, which is pretty serious. So then in the world, in life, in situations where things aren't going smoothly, karma, as the Buddha originally taught, has 8 fundamental causes. The manager, well, not exactly said, but kind of wrote it down, said this was one of the reasons. For me, it is about gaining knowledge to acquire wealth and possessions. It is about the kind of knowledge connected to 3 months of effort, the kind of knowledge a person needs to grow and develop. Working with knowledge that is not just about theory or pure academics, but also putting in effort and pushing hard through media. That is why we study and we work hard using the skills we've learned, you know. If you can do that, then it is true, you'll grow and make progress in life. But in life, right now, life situations everywhere, in all kinds of ways, are really varied. There are good times and there are bad times. There are favorable situations and there are unfavorable ones. There are times when physical appearance is flawed and times when it is perfect. There are moments filled with determination and perseverance and moments lacking them. All these ups and downs, these different states, are the kinds of things life keeps creating. In some other languages, well, in certain languages anyway, whatever it is, if you say it is God's will, it is still beneath it all. They went in, then stopped. Whether things are going well, we hear it as God's will. And when things aren't going well, that is God's will too. If you live a long life, that is God's will. And if you pass away, that is just how God intended it. I just settle it with that one thing. Well, it is not really the end of the Buddha. Why not just include that as one of the reasons and settle it? With Kant, it is just being handled through these fixed, critical kinds of situations, If it is something that has to do with people, and it is something people can actually do, then you could say that is pretty satisfying. A life where someone comes along and starts shaping you, and you just have to put up with it, is not a satisfying life. Relying on myself and being able to do things the way I like, that is satisfying. Nowadays, some people are turning away from religion and saying things like, it is all about being free, and they're living that way. That is just creating your own life. When I met some young people in the room, he said, they're all about that free thinking thing, It is like Buddhism and, free thinking, man. It is not something that is connected or related at all. If you do it, you get it. If you don't do it, you don't get it. It is only about you, man. I am not thinking about it in connection with any other obstacles at the end, according to the Buddha. It is just about what should be done and what shouldn't be done. Those two things, that is all they talk about. The rest is just mistakes people make. So then, what does it mean to be free? If I am being totally honest, Buddhism is really just for the audience, for the followers. Well, it is because of what is called ko. It is not about reflecting on life in connection with the value of creating something. It is about creating your life in connection with the situation where you can fully share your own knowledge. Taking the Buddha's final teachings and then creating your own thing from that. Well, that is why they call it free philosophy. Like being a free thinker. Think with truly free thoughts. Some people, they take the word free to mean, some people might take it to mean something else, like you just do whatever you want and say whatever you feel like. And they think that is what being free is. Doing whatever you feel like and saying whatever you want, that can actually be dangerous. Do what is right to do and say what is right to say. Whether you should do something or not is something you've got to think through for yourself. You've got to know for yourself. But if you really don't get it, if you think that is what free means, that is just plain crazy. If you can't tell what is good or bad anymore, or what you should or shouldn't do, then that person's just plain crazy. Once you get carried away, it just ends up like this. Once someone's gone off the rails, they don't know what they should or shouldn't do anymore. They just do whatever they feel like and say whatever they feel like. That is all there is to it. It is that kind of free, where your mind just feels completely unbound. But instead of that, all that talk about creators and other kinds of statements, if you remove all limits and restrictions and live your life freely to grow yourself, and if you follow the right way of thinking, then that is basically the Buddhist way of thought. So, today, the difficulties in this life circumstances are these four. I didn't watch the Blessed One sermon. I am telling you, those hotel world people, I am doing good things, but I keep ending up running into bad things. I do bad things, but I keep trying to be around good things. Even nowadays, in most people's eyes, this person is seen as good, but his bad deeds just keep happening over and over. He's a bad guy, but when it comes to enjoying the good times, he really knows how to enjoy himself. Situations like that. It is just one of those life situations where things don't go smoothly. So regarding those difficulties, how did the Buddha explain them? We need to remember these four things. Now could you explain the money part? PA, after that, about that. PA, after reading about determination, even people who aren't so good sometimes end up finding something good. Support it, even if they're truly vile. When it comes to Tibet, if you've only had good experiences and haven't yet seen the consequences of his worst actions, that is what I am talking about. Everything he has done whatever it is, didn't just happen right now. It is like chili peppers, eat now, burn later. If you dig a well now, it doesn't mean you'll be drinking plenty of water right away. And if you plant a tree now, it doesn't mean you'll see it grow instantly. Luck works the same way. If you try to do something now, like with chili peppers, if it is going to burn right away, no one would dare to do it. Oh, as for the chili, if you eat it now, it is definitely going to burn. Yeah, that kind of chili. Over there's like more than 100 Penitent City. The bad stuff, if the results haven't come out yet, then yeah, that is pretty much it. Even someone who is kind of a failure can still end up experiencing good things. That is just one of the quirks of how the world works. Even bad people come across good things sometimes. Why? Well, when a bad person runs into something good, it is usually because the results of their actions haven't shown up yet. They're still in that investment stage, so to speak. In other words, the consequences just haven't come out yet. The things he is doing right now haven't shown any results yet. He is still experiencing the consequences of what he did back then. You could say he is enjoying the benefits of the good deeds he did in the past, but for what he is doing now, the results haven't come yet, haven't shown up yet. So basically, he is living well off the past. Train speeding up, if the bad things he has done have already started showing results, then, as mentioned above, if you just lightly tap it, then yeah, the bad stuff starts showing up. The effects are starting to show, yeah, I can see them now. For example, it is sweet and cool, but there is poison hidden inside. But not realizing it was dangerous, I drank the sweet liquor. It tasted good, felt good going down too. Sweet, cool, fresh, yeah, that is it. But when the mind has already gotten too much of a benefit, that is when trouble starts. When the poison hasn't kicked in yet, you are still fine. An unwholesome act, well, if it hasn't had any consequences yet, he is probably still enjoying himself for now. Only when the effects kick in do I finally see what they were talking about. He said it is the same. Just like that. If the problems in life are still going wrong, even if someone is noble and virtuous, they still end up running into trouble. Noble and virtuous, sure, but that doesn't mean they're immune to bad things. When I run into bad stuff, I tend to keep running into it. Whenever about 2% of what he does for the younger side hasn't shown results yet, he is bound to run into trouble with them in the short term. Stop it. Pizza, Tibet, rum. Yeah, when good deeds start producing results, that is what the Buddha taught about that connection. A good person will end up receiving good results, will end up seeing good things, This clearly shows the true nature of karma. What I am saying is that life's difficulties are only temporary. They come and go. They say it exists. So when that is the case, the good actions haven't paid off yet, and the bad actions haven't paid off yet in that moment, because my investments haven't paid off yet. It just means that in the short term you might run into some tight spots or difficulties. That is we really need to reflect carefully on the Blessed One's teachings, So what was the sermon about again? Yeah, it is about the 10th grade school donor's illness, right, sis? It is about the Satan School Dhaka case. Careful now, it is a rich man's son. His parents are rich and well off. If you find them on PSP, you'd have to say they're two brothers, Tarnet and Kuthti. Another one's name is Than. His younger brother bumped into him, well, more like hit him, and then said, like that, they're the two sons of the boss. When I say he is good at it, I mean he has been passionate about charity ever since he was young, way before he became a Buddhist. He has always had the heart of a philanthropist, wanting to help people. Helps, gives. That is why. He also works hard to earn a living. As for what kind of business he does, well, he buys and sells, and he also does farming. He raises cattle, yeah, that means he is in livestock farming. He raises cattle, does farming. That is his business. And on top of that, ever since his parents' time, they've been wealthy making money through buying and selling goods. He goes to restaurants and does business there. From the profits he made, he used them to feed the poor in Tongi. So that is why people say he is more than just powerful. He is a pillar for those who have no one else to rely on. Well, basically it means someone who feeds people every day. He cooks and prepares the meals. He fed everyone who showed up. He is the one who did this good deed. On the way to Rajagaha, he happened to meet the Blessed One. Later on, the wealthy merchant of Rajagaha turned out to be a very close friend of his. The merchant from Lashio and his younger sister. And then she married him, and later the Rajagaha merchant also married her in return. They basically swapped daughters-in-law. That is how it went for them. And from there on, Rajagaha merchant, when he heard the news that there was a grand religious festival back home, he went there himself, met the Blessed One, and listened to his teachings. From that moment on, it was all about the Blessed One. He actually came all the way to Sivat city. It was 45 yojanas away. From Rajagaha, you should head north to Savatthi to show your abilities. The big medicinal garden. The Buddha, the 5 of them, I went all the way to the edge, got close, well, started getting close, and then bought the prince's private garden. The prince didn't really want to sell, so he just named this price. But when Prince Saita ended up in court, a faithful wife, a foolish promise back in the days when people kept their word. What he said was, so when I went to ask if they were really going to sell the big orchard with 10 plots, the kind-hearted prince said that. He said, you know, if you start throwing gold tiles around, then sure, he'd sell. Lay out the gold tiles and start buying and selling. He only said that because he thought I couldn't afford it. That guy really does care. He even went so far as to mean the goldfish and ended up liking them. The 18 gold tiles are all gone. Well, when it came to that, I had to sell it off, even though it felt like giving away my own eyes. In the end, sold it, 18 pieces gone. Built a school, another 18 gone. Held a big school opening ceremony, 18 more gone. And just like that, he let go of a great deal of wealth and possessions. That rich man, Nadin, day after day, without fail, I served as the head of the department for the Blessed One. During Buddhist Lent at the monastery, I end up going there 3 times a day. If you go in the morning, when you go in the morning with breakfast, and in the afternoon when there are no soft drinks, you bring things like liquor, betel, and scented items instead. He never goes along with the current situation, and he is always at his own place. The monks, this offering here is worth 500. Now, Ashar is offering 500, meaning that many monks right here at home. There are 4 alms offerings. With such strong faith, they work hard to earn a living, and they also carefully manage whatever possessions they have. Every single day he makes it a point to start with an act of generosity. He is someone who is absolutely passionate about giving. When you give like that, well, giving, that is what it is, right? It is not that it doesn't run out. Of course it does. By giving, he earns merit, right? But of course, the goods get used up, however. Have you ever had times when business wasn't going well? So what is causing the business to struggle? 18 for free. The debts I've lent out, I can't get them back, can't even ask for them back, Kaiwizo. The debts couldn't be recovered. When he couldn't speak up, his finances started to suffer. It must have been due to some unfortunate twist of bad luck. When the flood hit celebrity land, they found something by the riverbank, looked at it, dug it up. And since in the old days there was no banking system, they buried it in the ground. The spot where he buried it in the ground was washed away when the riverbank collapsed. He said the gold and money he'd buried got swept away too. When the riverbank collapsed, about 18 pieces ended up being lost. Not being able to recover his savings, losing those 18 pieces ever since then. His finances have been tight. As for the rest of it, well, he did try to help the monks, though. People who need to eat, travel, and worship. Feeding them rice every day was fine at first, but now I just can't manage it anymore. I bought broken rice and made it stretch. I feed them rice made from broken grains. When I was facing that kind of situation, I went to the Blessed One, and the Blessed One himself showed me. At home, they asked about making donations and doing good deeds. They asked about the financial situation, like whether I could still afford to make donations. My daughter does donate, she really does, but it just doesn't feel quite right to me. They said they could only lend me plain rice. The Buddha said that the mind is what truly matters, and that being good isn't the main thing. About the idea that having the right mindset makes it noble Vela. Once spoke about it at the cemetery. Yes, at the cemetery. Whether it is something good, whether it is something bad, whether it is a lot or just a little when you give. The main thing is your intention. That is what was explained. And then it was told to Mathutun from afar. If it happened back when I was in Vela's style, well, let's just say, if that were the case, I came over to make my donation. None of the well-fed people were among those who had taken refuge in the Triple Gem. You know what? Not a single person was there. Yeah, in situations like that, I still ended up making the donation. Now, they're giving an encouraging talk, saying that the situations where a wealthy man donates are, first of all, good and noble. When the Vela parable was told, the person it was meant for felt a sense of peace. When business isn't going well, ran into trouble again. At the rich man's mansion, the guard was standing right there at the big front gate. Got myself a spot like a god, you know. No matter the scene, it is all set. In the houses where people live, yeah, they're there too, those people as well. As for the people, they've already arrived. If it is about you and your home, then it is probably about your family. Nobody's actually assigning them any duty. You know, we say the word guard, but isn't it true they weren't told to stand guard at all? They just happened to show up because it is connected to me, that is all. Don't forget that. So in your house, it is not like families are coming over, right? It is more like geckos, spiders, those kinds of creatures. They just show up when people are around. Just like that, there are also unseen beings that show up depending on their level. They come with their own lives and reasons, but somehow they're connected to you. And those you have to be mindful at home, there is that Naga spirit connected to you, living there with his sons and daughters, just like people do. With his little sons and daughters, that is right. They say he lives in a heavenly palace right behind the gate. Around that time when the big news came that he'd fallen into hardship, that is when it happened. It was just the right time for him to speak. Later on, when the monks came by the meditation house one after another, he couldn't stay in his own place. He had to keep getting up to serve them. When the local monks come around, he just can't stay in his place. They kept asking over and over, so I had to give in. But she really didn't want to do it. She's upset. While sleeping peacefully, a little blessing from the cool air was happening. Here they come again, all dressed up for us. I don't want to do that. I am disappointed. She was supposed to talk about the Natapin song, but she didn't dare to say it. When it really sank in and things got tough, he said it would be a good opportunity. After midnight, he showed up in the boss's bedroom, all dressed up in his own flashy style. Well, since he is an ambitious guy, he has got plenty of drive, so I asked, who is he? The gatekeeper is stationed at the 4th gate, sir. So what is going on? Were you trying to give the boss some advice? No, a blessing. Go ahead and tell me. The big news now is, didn't he end up poor from giving away too much? When he built the school, it cost 18, and buying the land cost another 18. The big school dedication ceremony also cost 18. And then they went and spent a whole lot on grand, fancy things like that. And now still donating, still doing it. That is why. Their wealth dwindled and they ended up poor. So cut back on the donations. Work hard on your business and cut back on donations, And then, is this order from the royal court tycoon your order? Yes, that is right. Even if hundreds or thousands of spirits, like you told me, for 5 months straight, I'd still only donate 5 of my possessions. I am absolutely not that, so don't make me the offering. Don't turn it into my ceremony. Since, like I said earlier, the personal donation got ruined, you shouldn't stay at home. Just leave. These days you invite the monk to eat, to drink, and then, would you believe it, you even went and drove the spirit away. Even chased him all the way out to Nat Tong. So they went ahead and drove it out just like that. If you don't stay at his house, then you can't really live without being inside the territory he owns. When they left holding their kids' hands, there was no need to explain. They already understood in their world too. Just like in the human world, ownership exists. Don't underestimate it. Okay, whether something belongs to someone or not, even the school dogs know. They bark in their own way. And he marks out his own territory too. It is not like anyone's just handing over ownership to them. Since the schools are right next to each other, it is the same thing Ngongmei. The guy from the front side chased and drove out the one from the back side. From the west side they push forward, and from the east side they drive them out to even up to the mountaintops. They chase them away like that. Oh, it is all about chasing and driving everyone's just holding on to their own spot, claiming what is theirs. So even animals fight over territory like that, right? Same with us. There are weapons and everyone's got their own things they control. So when there is no place to stay, well, that is when the city guardian spirit came over while taking a leak, approaching actress Nancy in all sorts of ways like that. That was way too much of what you did. I didn't even dare to say anything. So then the 4 great guardian spirits what you did was way too much. I didn't even dare to say anything. So I went to tell the Lord of Wisdom. Well, the Lord of Wisdom said he couldn't say anything either. All right, then I'll give you a piece of advice. That song's going to be there. It is in the 18 missing funds. That is from the big song. You took on the role of a trusted treasurer, went looking for everything that had been lost, and then came back to ask you for them. The gold and silver, they're all shining again. He tried to get back those 18 kids he'd lost, but ended up sinking into the plan himself. With all the money he had invested, and with your power, you managed to get it all back. There are also some ownerless 18s, and you even went and claimed that ownerless 18 kid as yours, making it part of your treasure. Put them into the warehouses, yeah, just like that. And then handed them over. He asked something foolish, so he got punished. So that is all settled with Thailand. Just let her off the hook for asking. Give her a break. If she is asking to leave for that reason, then you'll probably be fine with it. All right. If Jay says so, well, he just went along exactly with what you advised. He made sure to collect every bit of the money that had been gathered. He even managed, with his own strength, to salvage the stuff that had fallen into the water when the riverbank collapsed and put it all into the warehouse. Next time, he also took 18 of the ownerless ones and put them in. So the rich man went back to warehouse number 4. The treasure vaults ended up full again. That night, I went over to see the boss. He brought a cup of flowers as a way to ask for permission, explaining that he was living in poverty and hardship. So then, why give him permission to stay? So there, after he had served his punishment and was allowed to stay, the wealthy man gave his permission and took him along to the Buddhist monastery. He took him along and explained the situation to the Blessed One, while making the request, the Blessed Buddha. This is what was just said, Pa. And then it is done. Ended up over at the related side with my partner, my bestie, year 1, at the city park, just casually hanging out about those things mentioned above. Bad people, well, bad things come from bad people. And if those bad things don't bring any benefit, sometimes you might still end up finding something good in them. But if those bad things do bring some kind of benefit, then chances are you'll only end up seeing more bad in the end. After looping around, we ended up at Federal 2 Bridge, right at the upper side of the city. Party. Even good and virtuous people, sometimes if their good deeds don't bring results yet, can still end up facing hardships. Life, well, it can turn out messy and complicated when it comes to love. That is the truth the Buddha taught. At the very end, it is a full 100. For some people, well, if you put it that way, doing good means avoiding the bad. A person who does good might run into bad things in a moment, but in the long run, they'll end up encountering good outcomes. As for those who do wrong, in the long run, they will have to face bad consequences. This is what the principle of karma explained. When the Blessed One gave his sermon and words of guidance, because of what happened around that area, the monks, yes, even the monks also face times in their lives when circumstances aren't going smoothly. Our courage, by reflecting on and considering the knowledge and wisdom we each have, we should remember that any situation can be overcome through patience and perseverance. May everyone strive and make the effort so that in the end we can face and handle any difficulties in life with honor and dignity.